Welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we're going to show you how to avoid slow and no-pay signing services. Now, full disclosure, I own a national signing service, Superlative Signings, and we are not in this category, and those who have worked with my company know that. But just wanted to let you know this is coming from the perspective of a signing service owner if you already are not familiar with myself and the channel. Speaking of, we love making valuable content for notaries so they can make and keep more of their hard-earned money, so they can leave that to their families, have more time freedom, flexibility to do whatever you want. So if you love great content like this and appreciate it, please do us a massive favor and hit the like button down there, turn on notifications, and please share if you think this is going to be helpful to another notary signing agent. Now, let's get started. Now, first off, doing your research is critical when you're working as a new signing agent with signing services, because most of the approaches from all the trainers out there, and myself included, would just say that you're going to want to sign up with a ton of signing services to start your marketing efforts. Now, I also instruct people, just like I was taught, to call and introduce yourself so you stand out. But that's a separate video. On this video, since you're going wide and you're introducing yourself to all these different signing services, there is a possibility that you will potentially introduce yourself and work with a company that is a little unscrupulous. They don't have great values and standards. They may pay you very slowly or not at all, and you have to threaten them with legal action to get your money. Now, the whole point of this is we want to work smarter, not harder. It's not worth your time to be chasing down money. Your time is valuable. So in all cases, if we can just avoid them in the first place, let's do that. So what does research entail? Now, a couple of different things. One, you can obviously go to Google. So when you're initially signing up with signing services, you can always do a double check and literally Google the company's name. Try it. In a separate window, feel free to Google Superlative Signings and check that company info out. Now you should see 110 plus 5-star Google reviews, our website, our YouTube channel, our Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and you should see 0 negative comments anywhere about us in forums, on Facebook posts, and Facebook groups. Another double check is the Facebook group, Deadbeat, all one word, Deadbeat Signing Companies 2.0, and that is a great Facebook group for notaries, not signing service owners, but for notaries that you can join, and you can literally just do a search in that Facebook group for that company, and if you see no feedback, no comments, you know you're probably good. If you go and search their name and you see 15, 20 posts about people having issues getting paid on time, probably a good bet you're going to want to steer clear of that company, because if that's been the experience of other signing agents, it's very likely it's going to be your experience. So that's my 2 suggestions: Google and the Facebook group Deadbeat Signing Companies 2.0. And other options, you could also go to Notary Cafe and read their forums, do a search for the company name. You could also go to Notary Rotary, create a free profile and account, go to companies, all companies, and then it'll give you alphabetically A through Z most of the signing services out there, and some are even rated by other signing agents. So those are all good double checks. Now, if you miss this step when you're signing up and you take on a job from a new signing company as you're starting your process, I would strongly advise you, among other things I'm going to touch on later, Google their name and check out their Facebook reviews, or in the Facebook group, or the forum reviews of their company. If there's basically no feedback or basically minimal, just means they're probably good. No news is good news, right? But if you see a ton of feedback, comments, and posts about struggling to get paid, that's when you probably don't want to work with that company. Now, if you've already accepted a job and you're 100% sure, based on their track record, not likely you're going to get paid, that's okay. Professionally communicate to them as soon as you find this out. This is why if they're a brand new company and you haven't worked with them and you haven't vetted them, double check that. And if that's the case and you're very strongly sure you're not going to want to work with them and it'll be a headache to get paid, professionally communicate to them that you would like to be unassigned because, and then insert fake excuse here. What you don't want to do is tell them, I need to be unassigned because you have a terrible reputation online. And the reason you don't want to do this, even though it may be true, and most of the time we do want to be honest, but this can negatively impact you, because if they are the kind of company that operates with low values and not caring about the notaries and not paying them at all or on time, and you tell them that you don't want to work with them because they have a bad reputation online, they're probably going to be leaving you a negative review besides blacklisting you. So, and if you have a negative review, that's going to show up and impact you negatively in your future revenue, because my company and other signing services like it can see that negative review, even if it's totally bogus. So you don't want to negatively impact yourself. So my suggestion would be just say, hey, I completely apologize. Can you please unassign me? I just got in a car accident, or insert, I just got COVID 8.0. Just insert something in there to get out of that appointment. Obviously, that's a bad look to unassign after you've accepted. However, if for some reason they slip through the cracks and you don't vet them, and then you vet them as soon as you're assigned, and you know that they are like a class 1A, not great to work with, and they are terrible at paying you, then you probably want to do what you can to get out of that. Now, moving along, yes, do your research, avoid scams. I'm going to drop this in because, unfortunately, in today's society, there are just scams on scams. And one of the scams out there are companies that pretend like they are going to market you and your business and get you paid to do closings. Now, if anyone is out there promising you, sending you emails, because when you become a notary and you're commissioned in the state, this is public record, okay? So anyone can pull these lists and find your email and email you and say, hey, we can help you by providing you direct closing appointments and get paid $150, $200, $250 per appointment. Just pay us a one-time fee of $40, $50, $80, $100, and we're happy to make that happen for you. First off, this is too good to be true, number one. Number two, from a business model, it makes zero sense, because anyone with those relationships with title companies nationally can capitalize in a much better way by providing more value than sending them contacts to notaries. Okay, so very fake, unfortunately, happens all day long. People prey on newer people in the business, and people fall for this too good to be true. Always listen to your gut. If your gut's giving you the, I don't know, probably, seems not quite legit, listen to your gut, okay? That's a key thing to learn in business. It is usually going to steer you right most of the time. Now, if you don't hear your gut and there's no red flags, then you're probably good. Again, listen to your gut, but avoid the scams when at all possible. Next, when you are signing up for the companies and then you start taking appointments for each company on Signing Order, which is a platform we use to find notaries, and you accept an order for the first time, there are terms of service that we have for our 1099 notaries that they have to read and agree to before they can actually get the job. Now, take your time when you're getting this appointment, you've been assigned, you're reading the terms of service for the first time, you want to update your Notary Gadget or Notary Assist or whatever spreadsheet you use to take notes about each company. So you're going to read in there and you want to read what their terms of service are for payment. So how long does it take for them to pay you? If it says net 30, what that means is in 30 days or less, they will pay you however they pay you. So is it net 45? It's 45 days or less. Net 60, 60 days or less. Net 90, 90 days or less. Okay, great. You got the time frame. Great. Now continue to read. How are they going to pay you? Are they paying you deluxe e-check, ACH, direct deposit, Zelle, whatever it is, it should be right in there. Next, do you need to send an invoice? Yes or no? Some companies, yes, because their state's laws require that invoices are sent by 1099s to prove they're not actually employed by that company, so they're not later sued. So some require invoicing. We do not at Superlative Signings, but look at that if an invoice is required, because you want to send it right away once the job is complete that day or the next morning. Next, in the time frame where it says net 30, again, read it. Don't assume it's 30 days. It could be 30 business days. It's kind of an unscrupulous way of doing things, but feel free to read it in there. If it just says net 30, that just means 30 calendar days. But if it says business days, obviously that's not going to include Sundays or holidays. So just bear that in mind. So be very detailed, read all this, and put all those notes in their particular client profile in Notary Gadgets, what I used to use, and I would type all it in. Net 30, doesn't need an invoice, contact so-and-so at accounting at this company for follow-up. That way, when it was time to send invoices, I knew if I had to send it or not. And if I was 30 days out, if I would check the client, see if that was the time that I should be paid, or is it net 45 or later. So keep notes, and especially at the beginning, because you're gonna go very wide. And when I started, I worked with a ton of signing companies, and I soon realized who I wanted to work with and who I didn't want to work with based on payment terms, how they communicated, all the ways they operated, etc. Moving on. Next, as far as your W-9, please make sure you have an accurate, up-to-date W-9 with either your Social Security number if you're operating as a sole proprietor, or if you have a doing business as, DBA, and you have an EIN, employer ID number for that DBA. That's what's on the W-9, the doing business as name and that EIN for the DBA. Or if you're an LLC, the business name of the LLC and the business EIN, but make sure they have an up-to-date W-9. So if you're using a platform like Signing Order or SnapDocs or Notary Dash, make sure that your W-9 is accurate and up-to-date. That way they can pay you. I've seen this before, that this is an excuse why some people won't, and I guess it's a legitimate excuse why they're not going to pay you, because they didn't receive an invoice, or if they require it, or they don't have an accurate up-to-date W-9. So it just should be complete. If you don't have any W-9, they're not going to pay you, because they have to say that that revenue or that portion of that revenue was sent to you as a form of payment. If they don't have a W-9, they would have to pay taxes on their portion of profit and the revenue they would have paid you too. So, which they're not going to do. They want it as a business expense because that's what it is. So make sure your W-9 is good to go. Okay, great. We've done all of our research. We've read the terms of service. Now we're well informed. We know what we got to do to get paid. Fantastic. Now, in a perfect world, nothing would go wrong and everyone would pay you on time. However, in reality, there are some folks that are going to be slower to pay and planning to just not pay you or pay you incredibly slowly based on their schedule. Now, here's what you do when these instances come up. Now, if you have all your details and you are, it's the 31st day, it's a net 30 company, they should have paid you by yesterday, fantastic. Now you're going to reach out promptly, but you're always going to communicate professionally. Again, coming from a signing service owner perspective, communicate professionally. Always assume innocence and assume it's an error or an oversight on their part, because you don't know. Because if you come across as an asshole, you will get blacklisted and negative reviews, okay, which will impact your future revenue. Always communicate professionally. I know you're upset. You're like, pay me my money, people, but I get it. You have to communicate professionally at all times, whether you're in your feelings or not. It's a people business from all aspects. You have to communicate professionally, period, okay? I'm actually going to link a helpful National Notary Association article in the description below about collecting payment, issuing collections, things like that. So I'm not going to get into too much detail on that because I can't really speak to that because I haven't done that personally for any particular companies, but that article is pretty in-depth, has a bunch of different hyperlinks that should help you expound on what you've learned here in the video and take it another level if you have to. Great, check that article out. Perfect. The next thing you could do, and what I typically would do after about 3 days, no response via email, I'm emailing one more time. And if I can add anybody in to that email, I'm going to. So whether I'm adding in a title contact that's also on the order, or an owner of that company, the signing service, onto the order, but I want more than one person seeing it, and I want it to be multiple people so that it pressures the first person who didn't originally answer me to hopefully respond quickly, okay? Sometimes we get an email, but our boss isn't on it. It's just sitting in your inbox. Your sense of urgency isn't that high. Let's be frank. If you have low values and you don't care about people, it's just gonna sit there, or it may not get responded, or it might get deleted. Who knows? So that's why I always add that second layer of contact. Now, if it's the owner of the company, fantastic. I'm hoping to get a response. If I'm adding title or I'm communicating with the title company directly, again, I'm going to assume innocence. I'm going to communicate professionally. Don't demand any payment from the title company because it's not their job or their responsibility to pay you. You're not contracted with the title company. You're contracted with the signing service, and the title company is contracted with the signing service. They have to pay the signing service. Signing service is supposed to be paying you. So you're reaching out to the title company, it's going to be a bad look if you're demanding money from them. First off, they don't owe you anything. And number two, another way to get blacklisted. Again, always communicate professionally. Hey, just letting you know, the signing company that hired me has not paid me. They were supposed to pay me in 30 days or less. It's now day 45, day 50, whatever it is. Could you please help? The signing service contact I have is XYZ at xyzsigningservice.com. Is that your contact? Do you have another contact or a good phone number, etc., to help me out? And usually what will happen is if you're dealing with a nice title client, which you probably are, they're going to reach out to the signing service and /forward the email, which will pressure the signing service company to keep the relationship with the title company and to appear like a good person to hopefully reach out and pay you promptly and respond to you promptly and actually get that done. And hopefully that is where it ends. Hopefully it never goes past that point. Now, there are some signing services that are just god-awful and they just could care less about the notaries. They could care less about their online reputation, which is leading me to my next segue, which is next thing you could do, assuming that doesn't get you any results, reaching out to title and CCing additional people on those emails. Of course, you can always call. Now, there's nothing wrong with calling, but you always would like a paper trail to prove in case you need it if you're going to go the collections route. Phone call is nice, but the only thing you can show is that you called that company. You don't know what was discussed unless you're recording, which is generally illegal in most states, I would assume. So again, I just prefer the paper trail personally. The next thing would be to go after their online reputation. And again, be very sure, okay, before you take this step, just like I said, hang on before you contact title, always assume it professionally. Now, if you get to the point where you're going to go after their online reputation, be 1,000% sure that they're in the wrong. They clearly are ignoring you. They clearly could care less. So if it's net 30 and this is day 33, don't do this, okay? But if it's net 30 and this is day 65, you're probably okay to do this because you're probably within the right. They should have communicated a long time ago, paid what they should have paid per the contract with you, and you're okay to do this. Now, you can go to the Better Business Bureau. Personally, the Better Business Bureau, in my opinion, is a joke. It's basically a paid association like the National Notary Association. Doesn't mean crap. But you can always go to the Better Business Bureau, and if they actually have a profile, feel free to leave a review there. That's not really where I would go though. Where I would go is Google, where everyone goes to check the reviews on companies, and Google their title or their signing service and leave them a review, an honest review about your experience. Now, you're going to be upset, and I get it, but the more professional you are and stating the facts, the better it will look for you, first off. And secondly, it will be better for the notaries that are going to vet this company in the future if they see your review. If you're just stating the facts, boom, they said I was supposed to be paid net 30 for signing I did on January 9th. Net 32, I reached out via email, no response. 5 days later, included title, no response. 20 days later, et cetera. And they just kind of go through your process and leave the review about how they are not paying. That's it. And then hopefully that will get their attention. I know when I get a Google review, I get an email directly to me, the owner's inbox, so I see every single one. So it's incredibly important to me, if I care at all about my online reputation, that I am responding to reviews and I have all 5-star reviews. If I had a negative review about someone not getting paid, I would take that really personally and immediately try to rectify that, okay? So some of these companies don't care, but that would be the next step in your process. And then the last step would be to try to go to collections. And again, I'll refer you to that NNA article in the description. I've never had to go there. And there is a point that it is not worth your time to spend, 10, 15 man hours to get paid 50, 60, 80 bucks. Honestly, it really isn't worth your time if you truly value your time. Now, some people will tell you to write this off as bad debt on your taxes as far as a business expense. You actually cannot do this in this scenario we're talking about. If you actually read the IRS tax code for bad debt, it literally says in the IRS tax code that for non-paying clients, this is not something you can write off as bad debt for the IRS tax code, or bad business debt specifically, is more geared towards you're a lender and you're proving that you did indeed loan someone money and then they never paid you back. That is bad debt, not money that is owed you, not something you can write off. Again, this is a one-time thing, it's a small amount. There are many other expenses you can have, so I wouldn't fret this, but just to be clear, I'm always a guy that likes to know the facts and figures. I go to the IRS tax code a lot because I like to be informed. You can't really do that. You can if you're audited, it'll be disallowed and you have to pay taxes and penalty on anything the IRS disallows. But probably never be audited, probably won't matter, but just for future reference, I like to cross my T's and dot my I's and to know what I'm talking about before I get on this video and share it with you. So feel free to check out the IRS tax code for yourself if you don't believe me. And literally just Google, what is bad debt per the IRS tax code? It'll pop right up, irs.gov. Okay, hopefully that has added some tremendous value to you. Now, one last thing I'm going to touch on, it's why do some companies have various payment terms? Net 30, net 60, net 90, net 45. And I'll give you my take on it as a signing service owner, because if you're not a signing service owner, you're not going to have this perspective. Even if you have direct clients as an individual signing agent, your perspective is going to be skewed based on the handful of direct clients you have. So when I see this in Facebook groups and forums and comments and posts, why does it take so long to get paid? Let's get into it. First off, if you're a direct title client and you're an individual signing agent, there are many clients that I had when I was a signing agent all the time where they would literally hand me a check at closing for my services. That's obviously the ideal scenario. When that actually happens is not the case with signing service companies. Sometimes as an individual signing agent, they would mail me checks and I'd get checks after closing within a week. Also great. Some of my individual direct clients as a signing agent would request that I send them a bill once a month on the 1st for the prior month's closings. And now as a signing service owner, I have many direct clients, and I would say out of the 70, 80 or so, I would say probably 10 or less require that I bill them monthly, once a month. The problem is I have a couple of very large clients that are like that. So there's a mass amount of money that I have to float during the month to pay my team, my payroll every 2 weeks. We have a team of 5. Their check, their benefits, their 401k, their vacation, their health insurance, their dental insurance, etc. I float that for those particular larger clients, and the rest of the clients, which is most of them, pay me as the file closes. The check usually comes out, and usually I'm paid anywhere between, at best, a week after closing, on average, probably about 2 to 3 weeks. And then we have the net 30 folks. And then once I actually send them an invoice on the 1st for the prior month, then they'll pay me direct deposit or send me a check somewhere between the, at best, 37th day, and on average more like the 45th day. So our payment terms at Superlative Signings are net 40. Most of the time I've got most of the money by that net 40 time, and I can get ahead and turn around and pay our notaries at that time or faster. But it is what it is. Every client is going to be different. So if you're a signing service and you have direct clients and they're all paying you less than 30 days, you can definitely turn around and pay your notaries faster, which is more ideal. Or if they can pay direct deposit faster or weekly. But that's why it's going to vary company to company, net 30, 45, 60, 90, because it's depending on what clients they have and what that makeup is. Do they have a large team, or are they a one-off solopreneur where they don't have any overhead and they're not floating much because it's just them and it's easy for them to pay them? So you'll typically find that the smaller the companies are, the faster they generally will pay you. Or if they're going to pay you very fast and they're large, like an example at Notary Go, they will pay you weekly, but it's going to be a very low fee. They're happy to do it. So again, it's going to vary company to company. Now, if you get to net 60, net 90, be super mindful that if they're at net 60 or net 90, that's telling you that their relationship with their direct clients are all like, hey, we're not paying them until, net 45 or later. Or it also could mean that they're just really bad at cash flow management, or it could mean that they're on the way down as far as operations and they, need that much time to be able to make sure they can comfortably pay their team, and they're not growing the business, the business is shrinking. So keep all that in mind. Especially a good indicator is if someone changes their payment terms to a slower period of time or they do it more frequently. So for example, if they used to be net 30, now they're net 45, and then a couple months later they're net 60, and then in other words, if it keeps getting longer and longer, it's usually not a good sign. It means they're running out of money, and so they have to rob Peter to pay Paul, essentially. So from my perspective, I want to pay my notaries as fast as possible. However, I have a team that I have to pay every 2 weeks regardless, and I love everyone there. So that's why if I could pay the notaries faster than net 40 consistently, I would be happy to. And if that ever changes in the future where I can, I'm happy to go back to net 30. Like when I first started and I had no team, it was just me. It's very easy to pay because there was no overhead. Didn't have any bills to pay other than the platform, my E&O, and that was most of it. And then the rest was to me. But as your team grows, your expenses grow. So just giving you that perspective. So long story long, hopefully that has shed some light on why some companies are net 30, 60, 90, and what to do when you are initially signing up with signing services. Avoid the bad ones in the first place and you'll be good to go. And if you are a notary signing agent that has direct title clients, like I was mentioning earlier, and you're not going to start a signing service, I offer 10% uncapped commissions to any direct clients you refer to us. So all it really in real life looks like is you send an email to your title client with me CC'd, Brad at superlativesignings.com, and just say, hey, Brad and his team at Superlative Signings will be happy to cover those out-of-state closings for you, the RON or bilingual, whatever you can't cover because you're not commissioned in all 50 states. And we are happy to pay you 10% of all those sales that come in from the title client. And it's a win for everyone because your title client now gets consistent signing service transactions, because most of the signing services are just god awful out there, honestly. They don't vet really well. It's a crap show. My experienced notaries can vet to this. It's a win for you because you get paid every month to literally just introduce us via email. That's a wonderful thing. We have notaries that do this all day, every month. And then obviously it's a win for us because we get introduced to a great title client we may not have otherwise met until later on in our marketing efforts. So if this video has brought you value, please share it to another notary signing agent that could use the help or wants the explanation of why different signing services pay differently. I appreciate you staying to the end of the video. Thank you so much for sharing, liking, and subscribing. And until the next video, you are the 1%. I appreciate the heck out of you. Looking forward to the next video. And until next time, happy signing and peace.